Hello, Worldview listeners. I want to take a moment and give a shout out to my friend Luke and his team at increasecreative.co. This season of our podcast, Luke has been helping his team there to produce the content that I hope that's been a blessing and encouragement to you. It's been a help to me to have his behind the scenes work, and I want to give him a shout out and let you guys know about his company. Increasecreative.co is a great partner for you to consider for powerful church communication. Luke's team can create custom websites, compelling graphic designs. They help with original video and, as you've noticed, original podcast content. It allows people like you, people like me, to connect with our communities. So I'd encourage you to let them handle the creative aspect of what you need help with so you can focus on your mission. Take a moment, visit increasecreative.co to learn more about how Luke can help you. That's increasecreative.co.
Welcome to Worldview, a podcast featuring teaching and conversations with Dr. Mike Lester that focus on helping faithful disciples develop a biblical worldview. Thanks for joining us, and here's your host, Mike Lester.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode here of Worldview. I'm your host, Mike Lester, and I've got a special guest today, Luke Clayton. And Luke and I are going to be talking about something perhaps controversial. I'm not sure for this holiday bonus. Talking about AI in the area of relationships, discipleship, ministry. So Luke, welcome to the show and welcome to controversy.
Yeah, controversy, right? Well, yeah. Well, Mike, it's certainly good to be on here, and I guess to be back because we were a part of the group conversation here. I guess at this point it's probably been a couple months ago with Nate Skelly and Brian Sams, talking about discipleship, and something that I think might have been touched on during that conversation was, well, how do where does technology come into that? And specifically where it gets controversial, right? We're going to maybe be like, well, what about AI? The big A word or AI word. And
The little AI.
Yeah, the little. Well, and I've already heard the comparisons to AI and artificial intelligence and the AI of Joshua. Was it Joshua 7? And so
Defeat, man. That's where defeat is at.
That's right. So, but yeah, I mean, it's like we were saying right before we hit record here. Like AI it's here, whether you want it to be or not. Just like any other advent of technology over the years, smartphones, social media, internet, television, radio, In fact, you might know this. I've heard the story that even when written word became more popular in the days of Socrates and Plato, that somebody was a critic of that. They said, well, now people are, they're not going to have thoughts. They're only going to read words. And so, there's always something like that.
And that pre-recording season, before you hit that button, I was thinking about the early days when revolutionary thinkers of tele-evangelists and radio evangelists were going to preach the gospel from the airwaves. And people pushed back because Satan is the prince and power of the air, and that was sort of the thinking. I remember when Facebook came. This dates me, but I remember when Facebook came out. And I remember many, many messages against Facebook. We don't need Facebook. We need Gracebook. That was a fun one. We need to get our face in the book. That was another fun one.
Face in the book, yep.
So
I remember MySpace is no place for your face. That's
yeah. That's really good. That's a pull quote right there from this episode. I think though, as I just try to get my head wrapped around this conversation today, I feel like the old adage of ideas going through three phases is so applicable here. There is rejection. No, not going to do it. Nope, it's wrong. It's wicked. It doesn't work. There's tolerance. Well, it's here to stay. And then there's acceptance. Where have you been all my life? And so it's just curious to see these this thing. So I'm just curious from your standpoint, as you assist ministries, you help churches. What are you seeing out there in the world of technology and artificial intelligence, and what's your general take? Is it back wicked? Is there a use for it? What do you think?
Well, I think it all lies, the foundation of it really lies in the very name of what that mini acrostic AI stands for. It stands for artificial intelligence. That's a very important thing to remember. It is not sentient, it is not authentic, it is not genuine intelligence. It is artificial intelligence. It is, I mean, again, and there are much more qualified people to speak on the technology of it and how it works exactly. But essentially, what we're working with is, or what AI is it's just a series of algorithms and computers that are able to generate, to almost synonymously and simultaneously search and generate content just on the fly. And really, the only reason that it's become more powerful and dominant in the past, 4 or 5 years, is because computer computation, basically, and computers have taken a massive leap in speed and performance. There was really one of the most simple. It's not the only reason, but I don't know if you remember. I'm an Apple, I'm a MacBook guy. Apple back in 2020 released their first computer with their own chip. It was the M1 chip that launched the M series of their silicon for processors. And no joke, that was such a breakthrough in speed and processing on computers that it just kind of thrust the world of computing into just really crazy speeds compared to what was maybe pre 2020. And so all that to say, AI now has the ability, or is now because of the speed, AI has the ability to do what it does so quickly. In theory, the technology has existed for a while. It's just when you typed in a query,
Yeah.
10 years ago, well, it probably would take hours to do what takes seconds now. Getting back to, I think it's a good point to remember. It is artificial intelligence. It's not real. I love using it, but to me, there are many times where it has the intelligence of, a middle school intern, in terms of you have to really be specific, kind of hold its hand at times. Some models are stronger than others and so forth, but at the end of the day, it is artificial, but it is powerful. There are good and there are, of course, bad uses for it. And Mike, I'd be interested to see you being the president of a college, being one of my former professors, instructors. I remember the thing when I came to West Coast back in the day. I can't remember what class it was. Maybe it was Romans. The infamous thing was the 10,000 word paper from Dr. Lester, and it was like, oh, okay, 10,000 words. And so, you being someone who assigns papers, term papers, reads papers, I'm curious to see how you're seeing it start to play into the world of academia, at least.
Yeah. So before I do that, here's a quick shout out to my favorite Bible program, Logos, because when you mentioned how study typically used to take hours and hours and hours, it is amazing the power of the search engines that we have available today that can quickly collate a report for us. And it doesn't do the study for me, but good night. It's a personal assistant going through about 10,000 resources that I have, collating the best resources, prioritizing them for me. That was just unthinkable. Even I remember 1996 or 97 getting my first edition of Lebronics 3.0. I forget what Logos is now, but that's where it all started. And it was still the floppy drive. We've come a long ways in the time that I have been in ministry. I think the danger now in academia, it's just people sometimes are losing the ability to think.
Mm,
There's a temptation to have a computer do the thinking for
mm,
you.
yeah.
So it ceases to become a tool and it becomes a master. That's the danger. I guess that's probably true of any tool. You put too much faith in the tool, it becomes a master. But one of the problems in academia and the world of just working with students is, we're in such a fast-paced world, and ministry has so many things coming at us that there's a temptation to look for shortcuts,
Mm,
and we justify them with Bible verses even. Well, the king's business requires haste.
yeah.
We grab verses out of context and throw it at it and salve our conscience. But at the end of the day, we are still to be stewards of the Word of God, and there's still something, called integrity. So at Veritas, we have our core values, and because our name is Latin, all of our core values are Latin. But we have Veritas. This is a commitment to truth. We have integritas. This is a commitment to being authentic and genuine and real. And when I put my name to a book that I've written, I really wrote it. There's humilitas, which sort of goes the opposite direction of intelligence, artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence says we have the answers to everything and we can find it quickly. Humilitas recognizes there's some things I don't know, and I'm not ashamed to say that. And then qualitas is sort of the outgrowth of all of these. We want to present something that is not perfect but excellent, because perfection can be a subtle trap. But in the world of academia, this is one of the temptations.
Sure. Yeah. And you mentioned kind of I guess implying that there can be the temptation even in maybe pastoral work to, as a pastor who is responsible to preach the word and teach the word every week, there can be that temptation of, man, it's Saturday night, I got nothing. All right, Chat GPT, let's go. And obviously, then the ethics question comes in of, okay, well, what's the difference between that and plagiarism? And some would argue, well, it's not plagiarism because it's not, published copyrighted content, right? And but obviously, I think we know that it's like, well, first of all, get up, have Chat GPT or your LLM model of choice write you a sermon manuscript. It'll do it. Get up and read that word for word, and everybody's going to know AI
Yeah.
wrote this, because again, artificial intelligence. But and I'm not a pastor, and I'm not someone who is responsible for that type of weekly rhythm of teaching. But I understand that the labor of teaching the word is laboring in the word, and it's the spiritual component to it that artificial intelligence does not have.
Yeah. There's no soul in it.
There's no soul, And in fact, I saw there was a quote from a worship artist not here long ago. I believe it was Forrest Frank, and he made a comment about some song that I think temporarily topped the worship charts.
I saw that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
was written by AI, and he made a good point. He said, this is has nothing to do with like, oh, they're taking away my streaming numbers. I'm not. I don't. My daughter is. It's Forrest Frank's more for my daughter's generation, so he's not really my vibe. But I do know he's doing very well in that world and in that industry. So he said, hey, it's not about my numbers and whatever. Like, essentially, it doesn't matter to me. But we have to keep in mind that this is artificial intelligence performing a song is not worship, because they are not capable of worshiping, because they are
Yeah.
a machine.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
And
Yeah, I
so,
appreciated his take on it.
yeah,
He
and
wasn't
I did.
necessarily viewing it as competition as much as he was viewing it as a heart issue,
Yes, yes.
integrity issue. Yeah.
Now, again, where things get a little gray is, okay, well, what if somebody were to take, because I'll be honest with you, other than seeing the headline, haven't researched that story, but from what I understand, the song was, yes, performed and maybe composed by AI, but it was from a human creator who kind of fed their ideas, and that they came back, and that's how they defended themselves. Like, well, hey, hold up, this is
Yeah.
actually an outpouring of my soul and my spirit and my creation. And so then the question comes, okay, well, what if, again, I don't know to what degree AI composed the lyrics and the music. Okay, well, then what if a human were to take that and they were to perform it? And the question is would that be a form of authentic worship? And I tend to say yes. It's not to say that it's not, but bring it back to, again, talking about preaching and teaching in particular. There is a disconnect of, hey, the Word of God is a living, breathing book. Yeah, I could technically preach, and maybe even somebody could be reached, could be touched through a sermon that I taught that was generated by AI. But when it's all said and done, it's kind of like to me, Mike, a little bit like what you've talked about this season of your podcast. Like, discipleship and teaching and learning the Word of God is not a process. It's more or less a relationship and a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And bypassing, taking shortcuts for sake of expediting the process, because, like you said, the king's business requires haste. Well, that to me, that seems like, it's kind of like you're losing sight of the real mission here.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's kind of where I land on that. And again, it's very gray, but at the same time, there are certain things that you know the soul and the spirit have to be involved with. And also, I think there's certain things that artificial intelligence can help with.
Yeah.
But
That was back in October 2025. I was in Southern California for a conference for our college accreditors, the TRAX conference. And one of the keynote addresses was actually on the subject of AI. It was brought by a gentleman. We've actually done business with him as far as marketing. He's well respected in the industry, a man by the name of Bart Taylor. But in his presentation, he talked about how he used a couple of different things for fun to generate. He said, "I want you." The prompt was something like, "I want you to write me a country song about going to Walmart in Fisherville, Indiana." And or Target. It was Target, not Walmart. And so then he plays it for us. It's a song that's not been written by a human. It's not performed by a human. But if you didn't know it, you're like, this sounds like a legitimate country song I would have heard growing up in
yeah,
Georgia back in the late '80s. It was just, so it blew my mind. Like, wow, talk about deep fakes and things like that.
yeah.
It was just pretty amazing to me.
Yeah, it is wild. Well, speaking of that, I downloaded one of those AI song generating apps the other day, and I was not my original idea. I saw it on social media. Something where you take maybe interesting text threads that you've had with somebody, and you put it into your into that and see what it comes up with. So I did that with a recent interaction I had with my daughter, where she was freaking out. She wasn't with me. She was freaking out because her headphones weren't working, and she was like, "Dad, help! I can't get it figured out." And just pasting that in, it actually the result was hilarious. I mean, me and my wife were kind of like dying laughing, crying at it. So yeah, there
Yeah.
are some absurd things, but in all seriousness, I here's something I've heard put by multiple pastors, teaching pastors at this point. When it comes to the sermon preparation, kind of to continue that thought, the idea is that yes, there is an extreme. Don't have AI write your sermon for you, but to have AI be a research assistant for you, that's another topic.
Mhm.
Because you were talking about Logos here earlier.
Yep.
It's a
Yep.
similar idea.
It
Or
is.
even just Google. I'm just using this tool to fetch information for me. Now, that is something that I've seen that can save pastors hours of time. You can use a tool like Deep Research in ChatGPT or Google Gemini or Grok or again the whatever of choice to say, hey, I'm preaching on forgiveness this week from this passage, and I really want to understand the meaning of the original languages and the cultural context and so forth, and it can pull an incredibly deep report, give you so much information that would have taken you again hours to find.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
here's how I see it. If it streamlines your research, and here's another way of putting it: if AI didn't exist, and let's say even Google didn't exist, if I was way back before the internet, whatever, and it was me and a bunch of paper books and commentaries, if it's something that I would feel in a good conscience asking my assistant to go do, hey, I'm preaching on this. I need you to go into my physical library here, pull books off the shelf, look through the table of contents, figure out what fits this. I don't think any pastor would feel bad to delegate that task to a human to go do. If it's something like that, then I would deem it acceptable to use AI for the end purpose of now that the pastor does not have to spend his time in the research phase, he can spend more time in the spiritual preparation phase, spend more time saturating himself in the text, praying, seeking the Lord, kind of aligning with the Holy Spirit on where he would have him take this sermon. And so that to me is a fantastic use of
Yeah.
AI.
I would do a caveat that I think there's a difference between gathering all the information and research, because I think there's still some deep study even once you've had your assistant gather all of it
True,
together.
True. Yeah. Yeah.
So it isn't
That's
just like you get it all together and I'll just pray over it. It's
yeah.
there's still work to be done. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly, and that is a great distinction even further, and that's very important. Is now that we are living in this AI era, for better for worse, it's very important that you define the terms, that you understand the processes, and that you do set these boundaries and these convictions. And so, and so that, excuse me, on the preparation side of things and the preaching side of things. And another thing I'll say is this, even in regards to that, kind of in line with what you were just the distinction you were just making. The difference, big difference between AI going and fetching research materials for you, and again, your human assistant going to a physical library and searching materials for you, is that the human assistant would not come back with a book that they completely made up. The AI might do that. In fact, the AI almost guaranteed will. It will bring you stuff that it's called in the AI world officially. They call it a hallucination. It is not real. All these AI models are programmed to give an answer at all costs. They are not. They're not supposed to say "I don't know." They're supposed to tell you something, and so they will. If they cannot find it, they will make it up. And so that's why if if you are doing fetching all this data and this material, the chances are out of every 10 things they bring you, one or two of them are going to be a hallucination. So that's why it's like, hey, don't go using that illustration that AI found for you without going and validating and verifying that it is
Yep.
true
Yeah.
and it
Yep.
is real,
Yeah.
because it does make things up. So in the preaching realm, specifically, or teaching, that's something I've seen. Now, something that, and Mike, maybe you can help me see the light on this one. Something that I do not take an issue with pastors and church leaders using AI for is to streamline administrative tasks. I see really, again, as long as things are true, as long as you're not using it to, and again, to mislead people and so forth, or mislead yourself, I see no issue with it to do administrative tasks. To say, for example, I've got to go through my inbox and I've got a bunch of emails to reply to. I'm going to get AI to rough draft, a few of these emails. I'm just going to say, hey, I need to respond this, whatever, boom. And again, rough draft it. Don't copy, paste, and send it as is, because again, people will be like, why are you having AI reply to me? But things like that. Something else that I've seen that I personally do for my own personal administration of my business is I love the feature now on Apple, on iPhone. Now it automatically, anytime you do a voice memo, which for me was like the most forgotten app for years, but now I've rediscovered it because the voice memos, the iPhone will automatically transcribe. So something I love to do when I'm driving is I will turn my voice memo on. I will talk out thoughts. I will talk out, again, maybe it's emails I need to send, or maybe it's some type of, project that I'm brainstorming. I will talk it out. I'll take that transcription. I will paste it into to an AI platform, and I will have it essentially take it and outline the thoughts. Develop the maybe rough. I've used it to help me write maybe even more long form stuff. I had to write a script for a video the other day. And so what I did is I talked out this script, I kind of brainstormed it, and then it cleaned up what was kind of a rough transcript into a very readable manuscript that I was able to go and tweak further. So I see no issue with that. Essentially, in that particular application, taking content that did originate with me, and repurposing and reworking it to maybe be a more refined and a cleanly formatted product.
Of course, the pushback might be: are you replacing human people and robbing them of an opportunity to serve in a local church? So
Sure.
it's you can push to either one of those
Yeah.
extremes.
Well, it's like the self-driving cars are taking away the jobs of the taxi drivers and the truck drivers and so forth.
Yep,
Yes.
yep, yep, yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's the pushback. Um, I was recently finishing up a book manuscript And as of the recording of this, it's getting ready to go into proofing. I've got a couple of people lined up, people lined up to proofread this, human eyes on the manuscript that I've written. But before I sent it to them, I did upload it. I said, hey, please read through this and tell me if you see any grammatical mistakes or spelling mistakes or any awkward structures that I need to come back before I send this to a proofreader. Can you flag these for me? Uh, I'm just try to whatever I send to them to proofreading, I've got it in a place that's going to save them time. It's not replacing them; it's just trying to save a little bit of time as well. But
Yeah. Well,
I'm sure
because
people would have trouble with that too, though.
yeah, well, because here's the thing, though. In my when and that's something in general. Whenever I hear people whining, whining or complaining because again, taking a step back on the massive scale of AI, of well, it's going to take people's jobs. And again, not to say I don't want to sound like I don't have some empathy and sympathy for that. I get that. Like, hey, it is going to shake up certain industries, absolutely, and certain people will have to go find a different job. But then my thought is this: is well, I mean okay, so it's gonna, for example, I went through my first drive through a few weeks ago where AI took my order at the speaker. That was pretty interesting. But my thought but do the people working those jobs, is that really what they want to be doing? Like, do you really want to make a career out of taking orders of people's drive through at McDonald's? If somebody out there has done it, no offense. Most people would say no. And so my thought is, okay, look, that on a big scale of, okay, yes, jobs are going to be taken, but at the same time, these are jobs that most people usually you do just to kind of like maybe make ends meet until you find something better. So maybe it will push you to go ahead and find something better. That's my thought. Again, it's kind of a heartless way to see it, but that now on the bringing it back to practical ministry church application, in my experience with churches in particular, nobody's complaining about a lack of work to do. Nobody's saying, you know what, I'm just not busy enough today. We really need something to kind of fill time. Everybody that I've worked with in a church context, they've already got plenty on their plate. So being able to say, like you just gave the example, I've done the same thing. I've taken, like there's this catalog that I had made for a church, and yeah, it needed to be proofread, but I uploaded it and ran it through AI first. It did find a lot of mistakes. I went back and corrected them. Now, I still handed it over to humans for proofing because they found a couple things too, but it eliminated 90% of, well, Luke, that there's a comma that's supposed to be there, man. Get that right. You misspelled this word, dude. Like, it made me look smarter because when they're like, oh, he actually knows how to write. But anyways, and so that's been my experience again in the church context. I don't know of many churches out there that are like, you know what, we just don't have enough to do, so we can't be having AI take our busy work from us.
Yeah, yeah. In the early days, and even it hasn't totally gone away, but you hear the stories of pastors losing their pulpit because someone in the congregation has found the source where they've downloaded the sermon and they're just following along with them. Oh yeah, that was a good sermon preached 20 years ago by this pastor. Yep. Oh, there's the same joke, and so they bring it to the attention, and it's awkward. Well, I think the next iteration of that has to be careful of is people just working so much on the homiletics. I can polish this up and present well, but it's an AI produced sermon. And probably, I think maybe even where my heart is heavy for people who might be in that throes of those bivocational pastors who are already stretched to the wire with time management, and family management, and workload and ministry load. And I don't remember who first said it, but someone said that a pastor has to bake his own bread. Yeah. And I think that's true even in this discussion here. You have to bake your own bread. One thing that AI can't replace is shepherding the hearts of people.
Yeah, absolutely.
It can't sit with someone in the hospital when they've just gotten the news they have cancer.
Yeah.
It can't be there to celebrate the birth of their first child. It's not going to baptize you. Yeah. So there's always these people skills, these soft skills, these heart-to-heart ministries. Can AI help us with processes and tasks? To some extent, within the bounds of ethical responsibility. but it will never like uh, we talk about how AI will replace some jobs. It can't replace the job of ministry leaders.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then on the again seeing the pros and cons of everything. On the positive side, I'd say what it can do is, if utilized right, it can free up ministry leaders to do what only they can do, like you mentioned, sitting with someone who's grieving,
Yeah.
or celebrating with someone who's the birth of a child, or whatever it may be. Because you talk about the bivocational pastor, and I've been privileged now to connect with several over the years,
Sure.
and hey, that's something that they're like, yeah, I'm working a full time job, and then I'm pastoring on the weekends essentially. And so, yeah, if whether you're, no matter what degree you are, because I also know plenty of full time pastors who are like, yeah, I'm working 60 hours a week of
Yeah.
ministry time. And so, what I would say is, yeah, if you can learn how to ethically and effectively utilize AI to streamline some of the things that you get hung up on, to streamline and simplify maybe some of that clerical work, that you well now you do have that time to go and pray and sit with that person, or whether it's pray over your sermon, or saturate yourself in the text, as we were saying earlier. And so, yeah, it all comes down to, and that's where, and I hate it. On one hand, I hate to say this because I feel like it's a little bit of a cop out, but on the other hand, it's very true. And it circles back to something we said earlier. AI does not have a soul. It does not have the Holy Spirit. You do. And that's where your discernment for that, as a ministry leader, or just a believer in general, has to come in, of knowing, hey, you know what? Yeah, this is not an ethical use of AI. This is not a proper use of it. Oh, well, this is fine. And
Yeah.
yes,
So you can't have
others,
the blanket endorsement and you can't have the blanket condemnation.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
So the more and more as I've thought about this episode in preparation for today, one of the passages that keep coming to my mind is Acts 6. In Acts 6, you've got the apostles, you've got a growing ministry, there are 3,000 being added, several thousand being added, and it's just booming, it's multiplying.
yeah,
So what do? Well, they find what they can delegate, and they recognize what they can't. We got to give ourselves to the Word of God. They didn't deal with AI, but they had to go with the principles of what can they ethically give away, delegate as part of their ministry that only they can do. I think there's probably a lesson there to be fleshed out, even in the
yeah.
ethical, responsible use of borrowing AI.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a great point. Is just like we said, battling technology, new methods. There is nothing new under the sun. This has been something that all mankind, for all time, has always been innovating. They always been creating, and so therefore, there's always a new technology, new tool, whatever it may be, that comes on the scene. AI is just one of those that it's seemingly very revolutionary because it's such a big leap.
Yeah,
But like we said, we have been in the internet age, we've been in the computing age for decades now, and but so that's a good point. Is even the apostles back then were having to say, hey, we're overwhelmed and we have to figure out a way to essentially delegate and streamline what we do so we can focus on what we're called to do. And that's, again,
yeah,
a great filter for even maybe the pastor out there who's going, hey, should I be doing this? Should I be dabbling in this AI stuff or not? Well, hey, what can you do so that you can be empowered to go spend and focus your time on doing what you do best? Like, I am curious here, and where have I know you being there at Emmanuel, me knowing Pastor Carey just a little bit, getting talk to him on and off over the years. I know that he tends to be a guy who he doesn't resist technology. In fact, he kind of got his start in some ways very much involved in technology and media and so forth when his early days of ministry. And so maybe pivoting a little bit to the discussion of in the church context that you're at, is how or at all, or is it at all, is AI at all being applied, being used, being discussed? What are maybe some benefits or maybe some not benefits, some negative things that you're
Yeah,
seeing.
yeah, yeah.
How's that working out for you all over there?
Yeah, so we basically hire Waymo, and they go and make all of our hospital visits for us. And
Perfect.
honestly, yeah, because I'm part time at Emmanuel Baptist Church here in Newington, I'm not involved in some of those discussions. My primary role here at the church is just to help us organize small groups, home groups, digital online groups. I'm sure it's being used as a resource. I'm just not involved in those conversations.
Sure, sure. Okay, which is
Yeah,
curious. What
yeah.
about yourself as you do that? Are you finding ways to maybe help as a part-time, assistant discipleship pastor, or as a full-time president of a college? How are you finding it useful? And you maybe alluded to it some already. I'm just
Yeah, yeah.
curious.
So uh, I love the fact when so being involved in ministry for 30 plus years, I have heard so many sermon illustrations. Later, you find out some of them aren't true, but they were still great
Yeah,
illustrations. So now it's like, man, now you're coming to a passage and you're like, this would be that illustration pops in your mind, but you have no idea how to source it or where to find it or to make sure you got the accurate. So I've used AI in the sense of, hey, I'm thinking of this particular story. I may have some of the nuances off, but generally this is the idea. This was sort of the punch that was trying to be made. Can you help me validate if this is a real story? And if it is, where can I go to read it myself?
mm,
So while I'm working on the text and working through other things, I've got this research assistant going and trying to find out if I can use that story.
yeah,
Um, that's a big deal for me, helping me find sources. And prior to AI, I would just Google it.
yeah,
Uh, where would I find the source for this so I can go find it and see if it's a digital book? Can I buy it in Kindle? Can I use Google Books? Do I need to purchase it as a hard copy? Do I need to make an old-fashioned trip to Barnes and Noble? But I even now as the president of a college, I don't have a secretary. I I don't have a full-time secretary working for me. I think one day we probably will, as we have seen tremendous growth in the 4 or 5 years I've been here. But right now, I don't necessarily need that. I'm able to manage things as needed. So AI functions as sort of a research assistant, help me find the information here so that I can use it. Sometimes I will upload a potential email that I'm sending, and it just doesn't feel like I have the right spirit. I'm missing something. Can I just say, can you just analyze this? I'm writing to an 18-year-old, and I'm further and further removed from the 18-year-old lifestyle, and this generation just thinks so differently than my generation, and so am I connecting? I just want to know, am I using? Am I wording this in a way that resonates with that generation?
sure, yeah,
Uh, you know, it's just little things like that.
yeah,
I'm still at the tolerating stage
yeah.
of AI. I know it's there. I haven't gone into full blown acceptance. I'm tolerating it, recognizing it can be used for good. I'm still weighing out all the potential pitfalls as well because it's new.
Yeah, yeah, and understandably so. And but like for example, like that use of helping it, getting some help on, maybe reformatting or just really kind of being a hey, do you think this will resonate with someone in this generation or someone of this age or demographic or whatever? Again, because that's taking something you've written and you're
Yeah,
just getting feedback, and so it's another great application of it, in my opinion. And so there are so many ways that it can be used in a positive way. And for me, and another thing I was thinking of, you're talking about writing a book, and this is something I found. I've never ventured out to write a book or anything, but from time to time, or pretty often, I find myself having to write content, little descriptions here, messaging there for different projects I'm working on. And so for me, it's really removed. It really has removed writer's block, because if I hit a point where I'm like, okay, I don't know where to go from here, I can go and I can say, kind of maybe paste the last couple paragraphs into the AI and say, hey, here's where I'm at. Here's where I'm thinking of heading. Give me 2 or 3 ideas or prompts to kind of take this in a new direction. And I'll be honest with you, most of the time, what AI gives me when I ask that type of question to it is not usable. But what it does do is it gets my wheels turning.
Yeah,
It goes,
yeah,
oh,
yeah,
okay, so I see that what you said there. That's stupid. That makes no sense, or that's not,
yeah,
that does not reflect the human experience, at least. But that gives me an idea, and I'm going to take it and run with it. And so,
yeah. That's
uh,
good.
yeah, so these are all great uses, and again, a fascinating conversation in general. The more that I talk to people, but Mike, I'm with you. Like I reemphasize. I would want to reemphasize. This does not replace. Again, humanity. It doesn't replace Holy Spirit work. It doesn't replace a soul. I love how you pointed out. That's where pastors, again, a true pastor, a true shepherd, is always going to have that job security, because you only another human being sitting with a human being is really going to be meaningful in those times of
Yeah,
both celebration and grief and so forth. And so,
yeah.
yeah, so much that could be said about that.
A tool, not a master.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I know that you are doing some coaching and helping ministries with AI. What would you, just in these final few moments, just a practical admonition? What are some practical guidelines or guardrails you encourage ministries to set up in the
Yeah.
area of, writing policies or whatever? What are you seeing in that field that we can just sort of leave these hearers here with, just since this is a worldview issue?
Yeah.
How do we use AI responsibly? What do
Yeah.
you have?
Yeah, no, good question. Some of this will be a little bit of a recap of things we've already touched on, but something that I do always kind of say is, hey, whatever you used AI for, if when it comes to generating content, it is a rough draft. It is just a starting point. It should not be what you publish, and it should not be as simple as I copy, paste, send, or copy, paste, print. It should be copy, paste, edit, 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 tweak, edit before you do anything with publishing it. So it's a rough draft. Now, and I think it doesn't have to be reemphasized. Even in that case, like it's not acceptable again for you to say, write me a sermon on John 3. Okay, that's and then just copy paste edit. That's not it. A rule of thumb for, again, the pastors that I have been talking to and even been helping and coaching a little bit on how to use AI effectively, and they've even asked me, hey, when it comes to preparing a message or a sermon or whatnot, what do we do? And my approach is, hey, you go to the text first. You don't change your process. You get a direction of where you're headed. You get even general, just stopping homiletically, you get divisions within your text. Know your central theme, your central thoughts, then bring that into an AI tool to help you maybe add a little more meat in the form of illustrations and so forth. So you always start with, in fact, I have a AI or sermon research AI tool that I've shared with a few pastors, and if you go use that tool, it's a pre-built prompt in Google Gemini, to be specific, but it actually asks you certain questions, and it does not allow you to just let it run wild. It's got guardrails built in to make sure that you're doing the work and doing the thoughtful, mindful process required before going. So that's again, I feel like it's a little bit repetitive from earlier, but it's something worth emphasizing.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
but
that's
then
good.
but then on the other side of things, I also tell pastors, don't feel guilty for allowing it to do like we've said earlier, what you might consider delegating anyways. Don't feel guilty for that. Something else I tell pastors is, don't shy away from maybe allowing AI rather to help you repurpose your sermons. So something that I've seen pastors
Sure.
start to do is take a transcript of their sermon, paste in the AI, and say, I would like for this to be a 500-word blog post. Great. That's your content. Those are your words. Now, again, don't copy, paste, publish. Copy, paste, edit, read through it, make sure that it didn't add anything, that it didn't, change the core meaning of what you said. But that's your content. You shouldn't feel guilty for having it help you reformat something. To having you create something from scratch, absolutely, that's not acceptable. But to reformat, so again, I think it's more of those are two kind of extreme sides of it, but that's kind of general practices and guidance that I give to ensure that you're ethical. But then my last admonition I'd give is don't reject it. I'm not saying you have to use it entirely. I'm not saying you have to use it day in and day out, like maybe someone like at this point I'm using it constantly. You don't have to do that, but you got to know what's going on with it. You got to at least understand the concepts, at least understand how it works. And because if you resist it, if you reject it, you're going to be left behind again, just like everything else, internet, smartphone, social media, and so forth. So at least be aware of it. Get familiar with it, get somewhat educated on it so you know what it's all about and how to use it or how others, maybe under your leadership are using it.
Love it. Well, Luke, voice sounds familiar to you. Luke is the one who produces this podcast, and I appreciate his help. It's been a fascinating conversation. Luke, as we prepare to end today, why don't you give just our listeners just a quick shout out who you are, what your organization that you founded, what it does, and how they can find you.
Yeah, well, as Mike said, you probably did recognize my voice. In fact, weirdly, you'll hear my voice here again in a moment as we play the outro. You heard it at the beginning. So I some years ago, about 10 years ago now, I started. I was working at a church as a media director. And then I branched out and started my own media business, more or less, with the primary goal of helping churches. And we're now known as Increase Creative. And over the years, because being in the media space means that my line of work is dramatically impacted by technology and new advancements in technology. And so over the years, my business, I've done a lot of things. I've helped with graphic design. I've helped with video production, with website development, and now with podcast production. And so because I have the experience, I still offer services in all of those areas. That said, with AI in mind, I'm making a pretty significant pivot in 2026 and beyond to actually making my flagship service to be AI guidance and coaching for churches. And something else that I've noticed about churches over the years and pastors is, their sermon when it comes to marketing is always kind of last. It's always secondary. It's all about, hey, this big promotion or this big event or fill in the blank, nothing wrong with that. And then you show up and it's like, oh, and by the way, I'm going to spend 40 to 50 minutes listening to a sermon, and I don't even know what it's going to be about. Well, what I like to do is I like to use tools like AI to help pastors effectively integrate their sermon more deeply, their sermons and their series into their marketing promotional strategy and into their events, and then help them use tools like AI to do a lot of what we talked about today, streamline their research and fetching process, and then on the back end, repurpose their content. And so that is now really what I focus on, is just helping pastors and churches streamline primarily their marketing and their promotions using technology and AI tools. And if you want to learn more about me and all that I do, you can head over to increasecreative.co. That's increasecreative.co. And you can connect with me, schedule a time to talk. Our first, strategy session is completely free of charge. Just want to get to know you and show you and give you practical tips on how I can help you, whether you decide to work with us full time or not. Just would love the opportunity to connect.
Yeah, I love it. Hey, I appreciate you telling our listeners about that. Also appreciate the time today and all the work you've done to help get Worldview back into the production world. So I've enjoyed the conversation. For those of you listening, I appreciate you as well. Look forward to you as we move into a new season coming soon, as we discuss some pretty significant issues in Worldview. Until then, I'm Mike Lester, and this has been Worldview. See you next time.
Thanks again for joining us for this episode of Worldview with Dr. Mike Lester. You can connect with Mike at jmichaellester.com, where you'll also find more discipleship resources. Mike also serves as the president of Veritas Baptist College, an online university dedicated to training ministry leaders virtually so that they can stay where God has called them. Learn more about Veritas at vbc.edu. This podcast is hosted by Dr. Mike Lester and produced by Luke Clayton and the team at increasecreative.co. We hope this episode has helped you grow in your journey of being a faithful disciple of Jesus. And we look forward to having you join us again right here on Worldview.